Hi guys, welcome back. Today's lesson is on subject-verb agreement. You might think that subject-verb agreement is very simple and basic, and half the time it is. But the other half is very confusing. So today we'll first start off with just the basic rules, and then we'll talk about what verb to use when we have the words or, either or neither nor in the subject, and with phrases like one of something, some of something, which verb to use, and lastly, we'll talk about what verb to use when we're using non-count nouns as our subject. So what is subject-verb agreement? It is when the subject and verb match or agree in number. I'm going to go over the basic rules of subject-verb agreement in the beginning of this video very quickly, and then we're going to move on to more complex situations because the general rule is pretty simple and familiar to most people. And in the description box below, I will also put a timestamp of different sections of this video in case you want to skip around to the section that you're looking for. So when we say singular, it just means one. When we have a singular subject, we need a singular verb. For example, Mary works hard. Mary is my singular subject, therefore I need the singular verb works. In my second sentence, it says, my school offers free courses during summer. Again, my school is my singular subject and offers is my singular verb. Plural means more than one. So if I have a plural subject, I need a plural verb. Two of my friends work with me. My subject is two of my friends work with me. And in the second sentence, it says all of my classes are online. So all of my classes are online. So far, so good. I think that was the most general basic rule for subject-verb agreement. However, once I start using the words like or either or neither nor as my subject, it makes things a little bit more complicated. Let's take a look at this first sentence. Mary and Mike are my friends. If you have the conjunction and in your subject, generally it means that you're going to have a plural verb because and signifies that you're adding things together, right? That means you have more than one subject. So it's kind of easier and you just choose a plural verb, are. But if you look at the second sentence, it says my mom or dad drops me off at school. So or is definitely not the same thing as and. Or means either this one or this one, right? So only one of them, not both of them. Because both of these subjects, mom and dad, are both singular, automatically, it's easy to decide that I'm going to have a singular verb, drops. So my mom or dad drops me off at school. However, in these sentences, things get a little bit more complicated because in the first sentence, it says my roommate or my classmates, right? So again, I have my word or, and I have my two subjects here. One is singular, roommate, and then one of them is plural, classmates. So depending on who studies with me, if my roommate studies with me, then it's going to be singular, studies. But if my classmates come, then it's study, plural. So you're not sure which one to choose. If you look at the second sentence, it says my parents or Mary is going to pick me up or are going to pick me up. If Mary comes, it's singular. If my parents come, it's plural. So which verb should you choose? The rule here is that the subject that is closer to the verb decides the verb. For example, here, my subjects are my roommate or my classmates. One is singular, one is plural, and I have the word or. In this case, classmates is closer to my verb, and classmates is plural, so I'm going to use a plural verb, study. So it becomes my roommate or my classmates study with me every Saturday. In this sentence, my parents or Mary is or are going to pick me up today. My subjects are my parents or Mary. In this situation, Mary, the singular subject, happens to be closer to the verb, so I'm going to choose the singular verb. My parents or Mary is going to pick me up today. However, if I switch it around and I say Mary or my parents, wow, that is some ugly writing. Mary or my parents are going to pick me up. If I flip these subjects around and then I just put Mary first and my parents are closer to the verb, then it becomes are. I hope that makes sense. And I hope you can read my writing. So what we just talked about with the word or, the same rule applies for either or neither nor. For example, either the security guard or my coworkers walk me to my car. So it's not both, it's one of them, right? So either the security guard or coworkers, one is singular, one is plural. So coworkers is closer to the verb, so I'm going to choose a plural verb, walk. Same thing with neither nor. Neither my friends nor my mom. My mom is singular, so I'm going to choose a singular verb, knows. Neither my friends nor my mom knows about my new job. Next, let's talk about the phrases one of or each of. So if you want to use one of these phrases, the form will always look like this. One of and a plural noun. So it's going to be a plural count noun, and you're always going to use a singular verb. For example, one of my classes is canceled. Classes is a plural noun. Is a singular verb. The same thing on the bottom, the form is each of. You're going to use a plural noun and a singular verb. Same thing as the above one. Each of my family members is plural. Has is a singular verb. So each of my family members has a dog. When we use the phrases some of or part of, it's a little bit more complex than what we just discussed. The first rule on top, it says some of, plural noun, you're going to use a plural verb. For example, some of my books were expensive. So plural noun, plural verb. If you look at the bottom rule, it says some of. If you have a singular noun that comes after this phrase, you're going to use a singular verb. Some of my book was difficult to understand. So what do you think is the difference between some of my books and some of my book? If you look at the first sentence, it means that you have many books. Let's say you have 5 books and 3 of them, some of them, were expensive. If you look at the second sentence, some of my book was difficult to understand, singular. You're talking about one book, and within that one book, some, like maybe a part of it, a segment of your book, was difficult to understand. So you can use both plural or singular verb when you use the phrase some of. The nouns that you use after the phrase really decides which verb you're going to use. With the phrase part of, it's the same thing as some of. So part of, plural noun, we're going to use plural verb. For example, part of my days were spent touring the city. The second rule here says part of and a singular noun, you're going to use a singular verb. Part of my day was spent touring the city. And again, what do you think is the difference? Part of my days were spent touring the city and part of my day was spent touring the city. In the first sentence, let's say you are in a different place for 7 days. Part of my days. So 4 out of the 7 days were spent touring the city. The second sentence, part of my day was spent, it means one day, right? But maybe a few hours of that day, just a portion, a section of that day was spent touring the city. And lastly, let's talk about non-count nouns and which verb to use with them. With non-count nouns, we're always going to use a singular verb. So in case you're not familiar with non-count nouns, they are nouns that generally do not take on the plural form. So we don't use it in a plural way. We don't say monies, right? We say, I lost so much money in Vegas, or there's so much traffic on the road. We don't say traffics. So we have a lot of these words in English where we don't add an S. We don't make it plural. So with these type of nouns, we're always going to use a singular verb. For example, all the work was done in an hour. So work, all the work sounds like a lot of work, but because the word work is a non-count noun, I have to use a singular verb. Most of the furniture in my house is handmade. Is, not are. Furniture very much feels like a count noun, right? I feel like we can count the pieces of furniture in our home, but strangely, the word furniture is considered a non-count noun. So we don't say furnitures. I mean, I hear a lot of people say furnitures, but they are wrong. So most of the furniture in my house is handmade, not are handmade. Now let's do this quick worksheet together just to confirm what we went over today. We're just going to answer these 4 questions. We're going to choose between a singular or plural verb. And please pause this video for more time. Okay, let's go over the answers together. Number 1, bonuses or a higher pay is what I want from my company. So again, I have or, but one is plural, one is singular. Singular is closer to the verb, so I'm going to choose the singular verb. Number 2, one of my favorite coffee shops, one of, and then I see my plural noun here, is going to close next month. How many coffee shops are closing next month? One of them. One is closing next month. Number 3 says, so much sand was stuck in my shoes. Even though we're talking about a lot of sand, we are also talking about a non-count noun. Non-count nouns always take the singular verb. And lastly, part of the problem has been solved. So with the phrase part of the problem, this word problem, the noun in that section decides the verb. So because the word problem is singular, I'm going to use a singular verb, has. If the number 4 said part of the problems, then it would be have, right? But because problem is singular, I'll use a singular verb, has. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that helpful. And if you did, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. And please feel free to leave any questions or comments below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. I'll see you guys next time.